The fucking world, the boatman, Francis Boatman world building is just immaculate. Puts One Piece to shame.
Was that your wife that was on the first episode, or was that your ex-co-host's wife? Was that Tommy's wife?
It was Tommy's wife, yeah.
That we made her come on and say everything she knew about Quest 64.
She's talked about the kid with the stick and then was like, that's all I know.
Kid with the stick.
Yeah.
We went on for 10 minutes based on Kid with a Stick, though.
Like,
and I remember there was like a map, but like I couldn't read it. Like, yeah, no, perfect. Like you're like 10 for 10 on Quest 64 tropes right now. Just keep going.
Holy
There was
shit.
some running around. I did some running around in Quest 64.
He does run fast as shit, though. Yeah,
he does. He has a little. He has a good little gallop.
One of the best running animations.
His little head like a.
I wish
it's so good because it's so natural.
I wish his was like the Squidbillies sheriff, where his feet just rotate in place instead of walking. They just fucking rotate like little wheels. Oh fuck. Aloha, everyone. My name is Aaron. I've got blisters on me fingers.
And I am Gerry, and I can do a backflip, but I just don't want to right now.
And you're listening to Super Pod Saga. Welcome back, everybody. Yep, Super Pod Saga. It's us. It's those guys again. God
Welcome
damn it.
Aboard.
Yep, you try to get rid of us, but we can't be stopped.
Choo.
Choo choo. Dude.
Red herring.
Boat noise.
Boat noises.
Well, yeah, it's Super Pod Saga. For any of you first-time listeners, this is the podcast where Gerry and I, we talk about a different video game topic each week with a different guest. And who do we have as a guest today? We have Mike. Hello, Mike. Welcome back, man.
Hi, I'm Mike.
He is Mike. Yeah, that's right.
Mike's the best.
Mike, for those who haven't ever heard you on this show for whatever reason, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about whatever games you like, your favorite ice cream flavor. There we go. Anything else you want to plug? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Mike. I keep showing up on this Super Pod show because when I get a good idea or something that people are yelling at me about, I'm like, you know who would like to talk about this? Gerry.
Not
and
just
an other guy.
Oh yeah, and the
guy that started the show. Yeah,
yeah, that one.
That other fucker.
Yeah. I really like regular chocolate chip, not mint chocolate chip, because I like vanilla ice cream.
Respectable.
So any ice cream that's vanilla based is good. And I don't like
fuck with it.
I don't like too much stuff either.
Cookie dough.
Yeah,
ice
but
cream?
that's sweeter ice cream. That's not vanilla. Cookie dough ice cream is like the cream from like cookies and cream. Oh, you said cookie dough.
Cookie dough.
Cookies and cream is like Oreo. Like
not
it's
a fan
like
of cookies and cream. It's got to be cookie dough, man.
Yeah, cookie dough is good. As long as there's not too big of chunks, like as long as the chunks are small and like cube shaped, I'm okay.
Manageable chunks of cookie dough.
Mm-hmm. So then I can decide how much I want to intake with my vanilla ice cream. I like waffle cone too. A lot of times you get like
hell yeah,
the like
big ones.
Now there's video game that should happen.
The waffle cone ice cream. Like, don't you have that by you? Where it's like chunks of like chocolate covered waffle cone and vanilla ice cream. That always seems to be really good vanilla ice cream. I like vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla ice cream.
I like a combination soft serve, the classic combination, chocolate and vanilla.
Oh, like the swirl,
like the 39-cent like McDonald's cone thing.
Not from McDonald's.
That's all milk. One of my friends has a soft serve machine.
One of my friends has a soft spot on their head.
Dude, they're like $800 to get one, and then all you gotta do is dump milk in it, and it just turns milk into soft serve. That's all that soft serve is frozen milk.
Holy
the
shit!
Instapot can do that too.
What?
Ice cream and yogurt.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. It's black magic. I don't know. It says it in the
book. Or you can get a machine that just does ice cream, and then you just eat all the ice cream because it's just gallons of milk.
You just
do the cook the ice cream to make it.
I mean, I believe it. You can get a machine for anything these days. You can get a machine, sit on it, and it fucks you and stuff.
I don't
need it's the bike from It's Always Sunny.
Oh my god!
But no, I was gonna say you could do that thing that they taught you in middle school, where like you fill a coffee can with like salt, and then you have like milk in a bag, and you just roll it, and it makes ice cream.
There's a video game called Milk Inside of a milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fucked up.
Speaking of fucked
Is it an
up, Jerry, what are we
RPG?
talking? Shit. Jerry, what are we
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about today?
We're talking about role-playing games, or RPGs for the layman out there.
Yeah.
I would like to invite Mike. Dude, this was a good idea.
Elaborate. Yeah.
Like, I need you to explain to the listeners what the purpose of this conversation is.
So what I like to do on Twitter when people say that there's no Nintendo 64 RPGs is then immediately list every game that's a Nintendo
seen it.
64 RPG.
I've seen
Yeah,
this
it's-
happen
it's
in real
hilarious.
time.
I'm not smart enough to like save it to like a text file or something, so I just have to sit there and like I'm like 1, 2, 3.
You just make it
1,
up
2,
every
3,
single
4,
time.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I just because that's why the order is different. You'll see it a different order every time.
Sometimes
I'm
there's
just
like
counting-
one missing. I think I've
Yeah,
even
that-
seen
that's
you post
happened.
like you forget one, then you come back like a day later, like, oh, forgot one.
Yeah, Omega Monsters. Forgot that one. Damn. Anyway, so the thing with the N64 RPGs is because it was a 3D system, not disc based, so there was limited space. There's a lot of games that are RPGs, and then there's a lot of games that are like RPG adjacent on the N64. And depending on my mood and the tenor of the conversation, I like to include different ones and then just see what the people do when I do that. Like I'll be like, add Harvest Moon today, or I'll add Pokemon Stadium, or I'll add Animal Crossing, or I'll add Mega Man 64. And then I just see where it goes from there. Because in my head, a lot of those games are very RPG adjacent, or are RPGs, depending on how strict or loose your definition is. And that just, after one day of somebody like cropped my picture and name out of my list and then posted it to their wall, and I find it because if you talk about Quest 64, I will find you. It just happened. Anyway, he cropped my profile picture and my name out, and he's like, with a gun to your head, and somebody showed you this list, what would you say? And then a bunch of people, all after I commented on it, a bunch of the people who also follow my account are like, oh, RPGs. And then he never commented back. But it got me thinking, like, is it like that decisive? Like, are RPGs like what an RPG is? Is it that decisive that we can't just agree that somebody else feels like, whatever APCD game is an RPG? And we don't feel that way, but like, can't you appreciate that RPG is fluid and not like
Yeah.
a very strict definition? So I messaged Aaron and Gerry and I'm like, hey, we should talk about what an RPG is, and you can disagree with me. And Aaron's like, yeah, I think we could do all like an
I
hour
immediately
plus.
disagree.
And I was at work and our goddamn Discord exploded. I was like away from my phone for maybe like 45 minutes, and I came back and Discord notifications were just like shaking and rocking back and forth in the corner, just being like, it's too many, man. It's too many. I can't show you all of them. And it was like a wall of text. But then we fucked up Aaron, because then Aaron had to do some work, and we went fucking bologna sandwiches all over that Discord chat.
And then
I waited till both of you shut up, and then I posted it on Twitter and tagged you both. So you got all the notifications on there too, because I turned off my
That was
notifications
it
on
was
Twitter.
like 2 days straight of just nonstop notifications.
I mean, you could mute a conversation in Twitter. You could be like the 3 dots and then okay, yeah. But yeah, when I just got out of putting my kid to bed, I looked at Discord and there was like 25 messages in the pregame chat. I was like, God fucking damn it! And then it's all about alcohol and shit. Yeah.
It was the betting line on how late you were going to be. Yeah.
It basically was. It was borderline that.
Shh. Don't say anything, Mike. The listeners can't peek that far behind the curtain.
The line will change next time.
Listeners, I'm late all the time. I'm late all the time.
And we just tore the curtain down and stomped on it.
Predictably late too. Like to the minute.
Yeah, because you predicted 8:10 or whatever, and I was
10 minutes. 10
Yep.
minutes, and you were 11 minutes late. Yep.
Fuck. Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
It's so funny.
yeah. I'm excited to do something a little bit off of the beaten path, like the regular beaten path of Super Pod Saga. Yeah, usually this show boils down to like our top threes and top fives, or like we'll talk about a console or shit like that. We never really, I don't think we've ever really had like a
This is more
discussion
of like
episode.
this is more of a discussion slash debate, soft
Yeah,
debate, and like just kind of a what we think is actually an RPG and
yeah.
like what we think makes it an RPG. And we can talk about some of our RPGs that come to mind. Cause like I definitely have like when I started writing down like what are my favorite RPGs, there's a very you can see a pattern.
Oh yeah.
There's a pattern to my favorites. Um so I have a very, kind of set way of thinking of what I think of an RPG when someone says, "Hey, do you like RPGs?" And I say, "I do. I like this game." But
Hell yeah.
Mike, why don't you tell us what you think makes an RPG at its core?
So yeah, I made a list of things. So I have 6 things, and I don't. So the premise of this conversation would be that these are the things I think of when I think of RPGs. But then the overlapping theme would be I think that you can remove at least half, so at least 3 of these 6 things, possibly 4, depending on which 4, and still have a game that feels like an RPG. So I
Yep.
was
Okay.
hoping that over the course of this episode, like we would come up with kind of a rough list together of things that we all think of with RPGs. Like when you list your favorite games, we should be able to pick apart which things that you like about them and stuff, like which, and then we can figure out how many of those things are like live or die. This thing needs to be in my RPG or it doesn't feel like an RPG to me.
Okay.
So the things I have, and tell me if any of these things would fall on your list too. One, I had narrative. The game has to have some sort of story. 2, exploration. And the biggest example I gave is you have to be able to zoom out. So in adventure games, you there usually is a large world, but you only see it small, like fisheye lens portions at a time. Where in a typical RPG, you can see a world map, or you can see a town map, or you can see that there's more things than you that exist. Like when you're playing Ocarina of Time, there is a map, but you're only living in a small portion, and it's not like I'm looking at everything. You have a mini map, and that's it. That's you. And then I have character, meaning that character or world progression, and then character, meaning stats or item stats. So
Mhm.
2-part character thing. Does the character affect the world, and then does the character uh, do they have effects on themselves? Does that world and the elements of the game affect the character themselves? And then separately from that, I have combat or objectives to overcome, and then my last one is just math. So I think an RPG needs some. Yeah, I think that the difference between a lot of adventure games and then what turns it into an adventure RPG is math, either through an element of randomness or some sort of calculation behind the scenes that you can't see that makes the
Yeah.
game different each time you play it. So, like the difference between the set elements in Ocarina of Time, like every time you open a chest in Ocarina of Time, what's going to be in that chest. Because you've played the game before.
That's a good one.
Compared to a game like Animal Crossing, where you shoot down a balloon and you don't know what's going to be in that balloon because there's math behind the scenes in Animal Crossing. You don't know what villagers are going to say what and send you on what quest, and you don't know what the items are going to be. So even if the math isn't like damage numbers over an enemy's head or an EXP point bar that tells you the next thing, there needs to be some sort of math, even if it's not a number in front of you and tangible. So those 6 things: narrative, exploration, world and character progression, character stats, combat, and math. And I don't think every game needs to have all of them, but you need to have some of them, at least some of them, for it to be an
Yeah.
RPG.
Yeah. I could see that. Or like
I had a
what
few of
sort of
those on my list as well.
like some kind of like, I guess like derivative of one of those, because one of my I was thinking of games that are kind of more linear, like say Final Fantasy X, which is for sure an RPG, but it's linear as fuck. So there's not like a lot of exploration, but I mean, there's still a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
I have examples for each of those 6 things, knowing that we were going to go down this road because you're like, I want to make a debate on this. So I have the opposite examples. I have examples of RPGs that don't fit all 6 of those things. I didn't pick
Yeah,
games that do fit those. I did the opposite, like games without narrative that still work, or games without math that
Will
still
be a
work.
game without a narrative that still works. Animal
Like
Crossing.
Gauntlet Legends, RuneScape.
oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
fucking RuneScape. Yep. Or
Like what
RuneScape.
does the story of RuneScape matter? But is everybody sitting there grinding their stats in that? Like what kind of game? What kind of game is RuneScape if it's not an RPG?
that's true.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
It's
Some
the
of the stuff that
RPG.
I had because I didn't have 6. I only had like 3 and a bit. Um, for me, it's immediately some kind of combat system, like some type of combat that is either unique or similar to others within that realm of game. So like, you got Secret of Mana. That's an action RPG. It's very much like hack and slash, but there's strategy to it because like you have a cooldown and like stamina and stuff like that. Then there's like straight turn based, like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, where it's all kind of like you said, it's math. It's like there's turns, there's a certain randomness to it, but like there's variables that go into it that have like there's a structure to that randomness, and I think you're right. I think that structure is math. Um, and then there's other kind of different things like Super Mario RPG. It's a turn-based game, but it has action as well
Mm-hmm.
with like timed hits and stuff. So like again, it's all about for me. It's like almost immediately like I think of combat. Like what
Yeah,
is the combat like? Um, and yeah, like that's the first thing that I think about combat, and then it's what's the story and the world building and the character development. That's like the second big check on mine. Like if I'm thinking back to like, but again, kind of to go back to what you were saying, Mario RPG's story is like it's I mean it's a Mario game at its heart. Like it's there's no like
Yeah.
deep crazy story happening behind Mario RPG. Is it an amazing RPG though? Yeah, because the combat is so fucking good in that game. The combat carries that game. The combat and the dialogue is what carries that game.
the character
And
progression is really good in that too. I think that was one of the things that Mike
yeah,
had down as well too. Like the
Mm-hmm.
characters sort of grow. Like Mallow for sure grows. Gino.
Gino, even
Uh,
Bowser.
yeah, that's true.
But like games like one of my favorite games of all time, Secret of Mana. I couldn't even tell you what the fuck is going on in that game. Like, I don't know, Dark Empire comes. It's like
That's
Star
fair.
Wars. It's just like the bad people came and they fucked
Yep.
everything up.
Gotta get that mana sword.
Yeah, everybody's after this mana sword or something. Um, and then yeah, the other thing is definitely exploration. So like being able to veer off the beaten path to find like loot, chests, secret areas, stuff like that. Find a new quest that's kind of like tucked away in a bush somewhere. Like that's my shit. All that stuff,
Yeah.
that's my RPGs.
So we do have some overlap. I just put your
Oh yeah.
initial next to the ones that I have, so then when we get to the end, we know what we agree on. Keeping track, keeping tabs.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Aaron, what about you? Like in totality, what is it about the word RPG that makes it an RPG for you?
Yeah. When I hear that word or group of words, I don't know. When I hear RPG, I for sure think character progression, either like character arcs or like progression in like stats, levels, shit like that. Because you have like Superstar Saga, Earthbound, yeah, Secret of Mana, shit like that. Anything like that, even where it's not even just like a base level. If it's like say Skyrim, where you have levels for different abilities, like there's no like your character's level 1 or 5 or whatever. It's just or even like RuneScape. That's a good example too. You don't have like the base level. You have levels, everything else. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's for sure RPG for me. I think also yeah, I think exploration also, whether it's even if you don't have like a gigantic open world map, like you still have a world map to an extent, like Final Fantasy X, Legend of Dragoon, where you just like follow the little dotted line from place to place. Like you're still going through like a world map and going through this whole continent, this whole world and shit. That's really good. I almost want to say combat as well, but one that Tommy has drilled into my brain is Disco Elysium, which I mean it
Mhm.
has a lot of what I love about RPGs, but it has no combat. It's all like skill checks and dialogue trees and shit instead of combat.
Yeah, that's a really unique one.
And yeah, math. For sure, math. You know, like equipping different pieces of equipment and gear and shit like that, increasing stats, getting swole as fuck. Yeah, stuff like that.
Throwing some beef in
Okay.
them gills.
stuff raw meat into my gills, please.
I also I forgot I did have wrote down I skipped over it, leveling system with some type of gauge for leveling up.
Yep.
So I mean I kind of already outlined some of my favorite RPGs. Like I like if I think back to RPGs, I'm almost immediately going back to Super Nintendo and PS1. That's where I go. And I'm guilty of it too, Mike. When I think of the N64, I don't think of RPGs. But you're right, there are RPGs on there. Like,
Oh yeah.
like there's very obvious ones too. Like Paper Mario is a
Mhm.
very obvious RPG. Like that is basically Super Mario
Yeah.
RPG 2.
Yeah, we wouldn't argue that one, and very
No.
few people do. So
But like I've seen people argue about Quest 64 not being a proper RPG. I've seen people
Mhm.
totally dismiss shit like Hybrid Heaven and be like,
Mhm.
"It's not a fucking RPG." It's like, well, what the fuck is it? It has a turn-based battle
Yeah.
system. It has a story. Like you level up, you
Yeah,
equip
about
shit.
that too.
Like
Yeah, you learn new moves through skill points or
yeah,
XP.
people
I
are just
forget
like,
which
"Nah,
one.
that's a wrestling game." It's like, shut the fuck up. It's not
Yeah.
a wrestling game. Just because you could throw look, that's not the first time they put a fucking suplex in an RPG. Okay, you got Hybrid Heaven suplexing fools everywhere. Then you got fucking what's his face from Final Fantasy VI
Saving.
suplex to fucking train.
Yeah,
So there's two suplexes. I guess RPGs are also wrestling
At least 2 suplexes.
at the very least.
WrestleFest is really good if you like wrestling RPGs.
I heard that is really good. Actually.
Oh, that's
It is. It
that's-
is really good.
that's pretty newish, isn't it? It's like a turn-based wrestling
Mhm.
RPG.
Yeah,
or
like
is
3
it...
years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot about that game. Another thing too to get out of the way would be like, is Tommy tried to say this a lot. Again, bringing Tommy into this. What the fuck was that baseball game? It's like MLB The Show.
Oh
It's got
yeah.
it's got a lot of RPG elements. And he kept trying to say it's a baseball RPG, but it's like, no, it's a baseball game
Super
with
baseball
RPG elements. Like it's just tacked on RPG elements. That doesn't make it
So
an
I
RPG.
do want to
because,
talk
like,
about that, but I think we can wait till later as our
Yeah,
own
yeah.
thing, because I think
Yeah, I
sports
got a
games
point
in
about that, too.
general, because they're on the once again on the N64. Game I don't list are the Power Pro series, and if you've ever played the Power Pros baseball series, it's very RPG forward, and there's 7 of them on on the N64.
Holy
So
shit!
it's a baseball. There's 2 of them that are more arcadey, but there's 5 of them that are like.
But like
It's
in
a
that case,
baseball
would
simulation, but you're like feeding your characters certain things to level up certain stats. Like you're giving, like it is
That's
like
true.
it
here's
is,
a pastrami sandwich. Now learn fucking home run.
Learn
well, like
Firaga.
each character is their own like thing. You know what I mean? Yes, yeah. Some of them get magic.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it is what it is. But no, but
Some of
it's
them
very
get
like
magic
today?
in a baseball game.
no, they don't.
Oh,
You told me to be more sarcastic this episode. So
Fucking
here I
Ken
am.
Griffey Jr. just learned Blizzaga.
Yeah. But yeah, like at its core, it's a baseball game, sure. But the way that you progress with your team is like individual character development and leveling and like player recruiting and EXP
That's
leveling
true.
and like
Yeah.
item management and like all the stuff that you would think about if you listed off the things that we just talked about are all in this game, but it's a baseball game. So then it's how far does we'll do that all these sports later, but it's how far is like are you willing to allow the definition to go? And that's where I think that we get like that's where all the weirdness gets into the conversation.
Well, like even
Is,
stuff like
because it's person
Guardians
by
of the
person.
Galaxy, like that new Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out, like what was that, 2 years ago or something? Like that was considered an RPG. And when I'm playing it, I'm like, I don't think this is an RPG. That doesn't feel like one to me, anyways. So like, then it opens up the can of worms of like, okay, but it has RPG elements, like it has skill
Mhm.
trees and it has shit like that. So it's like, does having RPG elements just qualify a game as being an RPG? Because like,
It's
if you
tough.
want to look at it, this way, Smash has fighting elements, but that's not a fighting game. So
That's
like,
true.
there's definitely a line there where it's like, okay, just because something has RPG elements, I don't think that automatically puts it in the category or even the subcategory. Like, I wouldn't even consider Guardians of the Galaxy an action RPG. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is just an action game that
Sure.
has stats. Right? So like,
Yeah.
there's definitely like a line in the sand. And in our conversations prior to this on Discord, like we were having a hard time to be like, because every time Aaron would be like, well, this is not an RPG, you'd be like, yeah, but like, what about? And like, it was just
And I'd
like
just be
counterpoint,
fucked, ...
counterpoint, objection, like every single time.
We didn't talk about whether or not Ace Attorney is an RPG, but I would be willing to have that conversation too. So,
Oh man,
Do it now.
should we just go right
Entertain.
into it?
here's the thing. Before we get to that,
Yeah.
the common trap that people fall into when they're arguing this kind of thing with me is then they say, well, if you suggested pick a game, say Hybrid Heaven. If you suggested Hybrid Heaven to somebody and they played it and you told them it was an RPG, don't you think somebody who played just RPGs would be pissed? I'm like, no. Why if I thought they would be pissed, I wouldn't suggest it to them. So then that just loops right back around to the person who's making the suggestion is still, it's their opinion. Just like you ran into with Guardians of the Galaxy, it was somebody's opinion that they were making an RPG game. And they did make an RPG game in their head, but by the time it got to Gerry's hands, it was clearly in his mind not an RPG. So if it was suggested to him as an RPG by a development team who thought they were making an RPG, and then he played it and it wasn't, like, where does the argument start and finish? Like, whose fault is that? In air quotes.
Yeah,
Like, it's Ubisoft's fault. It's always going to be Ubisoft's fault.
fucking Ubisoft.
I'm okay with that, but like when it's a one-on-one personal conversation, like if I suggest a game to Aaron, like, and he doesn't think it's an RPG, but I do, then who is it on? You know what I mean? That's why there's so much feeling in what a game is, because it could be both of us. It could be Aaron and me. Maybe neither of us have the same definition of a game.
It's funny. I've never seen a genre of game defended and picked apart as much as the RPG genre. Like,
yeah,
it's because of gatekeeping. That's because people it's the only RPG that came from a history of people sitting in a basement rolling dice, and creating characters.
That is the original, yeah.
Yeah, so like sports, like baseball didn't start in somebody's basement with like a bunch of body odor and
how do you
stat
know?
Sheets. Because I know the history of baseball. That's why I brought up baseball games before.
I've seen baseball.
I know what it is. But yeah. So, Aaron, this is your episode. I don't want to derail it any further.
That's all good.
Gerry shares the same sentiment. Where did you want to go next?
Man, it's tough. There's all sorts of different directions we could go.
I mean, otherwise I can pick the things we agree on and we can talk about those.
How about this? Why don't we talk about some of these unconventional RPGs that we actually think are RPGs?
Okay.
Because I got a few listed.
We can go around this. We can like round table it where each of us picks one and then we'll talk about it.
Let's go around the fucking table.
Yeah.
Ring around the fucking rosies.
Do you want to start? Because Aaron looks nervous.
No, I do have one actually. No, I've got one.
For the listeners, Aaron has now drawn sweat to his brow.
He's picked a very deceptive skill tree for podcasting.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who is trying his best.
Dude, so I forget. I'm trying to remember which the fuck. So the Soul Calibur games, they tend to have these like separate games from game modes separate from like the arcade mode, one-on-one mode, shit like that. They like separate RPG modes.
They do?
Yeah, like,
so this is a brave choice for the first one.
I know, man.
I'm pick a definitive fighting game.
I'm going balls in, man. So
I love it though. I want to hear it.
So Soul
You
Calibur
sure you're
3.
not thinking of Air Guys?
What?
Air Guys, like the Final
Air Guys,
Fantasy
that-
fighting game,
Oh, okay. I thought
That's
you
a
were saying
good-ass
something
game.
else. I've
which
never
has a
played
full
Air Guys
RPG in
actually.
it. It's got a
Really?
full It's got a full dungeon crawler inside of the fighting game.
Mm.
Like,
Well, that's like that
And
fucking
Tobal.
Tobal,
It
yeah.
also does.
mhm.
But
Yes,
so
it does.
so
But Soul Calibur,
yeah, hold on. So yeah, Soul Calibur 3. We'll go Soul Calibur 3. So the full game itself, if you play like one-on-one versus CPU, the arcade mode, time attack, anything else, just a fighting game. Just a fighting game, ring out. You have Valdo, fucking lobster, or not lobster, crab walking everywhere.
Fuck him.
But then it's got this one separate game mode. I forget what exactly it's called, but it's basically just like a strategy RPG where you have this person go this way, they run into an enemy, and then it's a fighting game again. And then yeah, you fight. If you win or lose, you get XP and you level up. Your character gets more powerful and shit.
Is that in Soul Calibur 1?
Soul Calibur 3.
it is. It's in 3, and it's called the Tales
Oh.
of Souls mode.
There you go. Yep. And
Interesting. I
it's-
did not know about this.
and while I mean, yeah, you don't learn new moves. There's no like skill trees. I don't believe there are different like passive abilities you can equip. I think I don't remember for sure, but you do for sure level up, and enemies that are higher level than you will just
Oh, I'm sorry.
decimate you.
Chronicles of the Sword.
Chronicles of the Sword.
Sword.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's multiple modes in this game. I'm learning right now.
What system was this on? Was this
PS2.
Gen 6?
Yeah,
That was a
PS2.
PS2 game?
Yep.
Or arcade.
But what the fuck? Where was I? Yeah, so that mode for sure is an RPG. It relies heavily on stats, making sure you have like the best weapons equipped. Because actually, I think it was the weapons that have different different stats and passive abilities and shit like that. So yeah, that mode I would think is an RPG. It's an RPG to me anyway. But it's like the rest of the game itself is more fighting game. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
It sounds like a real-time strategy the way you're describing it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like you have items and characters, and you're like I just saw a picture of the board, and it straight up looks like a real-time strategy, something you
Yep.
would see in Ogre Battle or something like that, or
Yeah.
Tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a whole other can of worms, because some people don't think that the tactics games are RPGs. They think
Which
they're
is stupid.
real-time strategy games instead.
I'm
Is it,
sorry.
though?
It's not stupid. It's
Is it
not
stupid?
stupid. It's not. I guess it's not. I mean,
Because like I don't think of XCOM as an RPG.
but your character. I mean, I guess. I mean, you need to level out
But
your characters.
By
to get those
definition, I
abilities.
think it
don't
actually
know.
is.
You
Yeah.
don't know, but you don't level up your characters per se. You level up, isn't it like the reconnaissance and stuff like that?
No, you level
equip
up
to
your
your characters.
You level up your characters.
All the
Or
XCOM
is there just a
games?
skill tree?
No, there's so
Because don't you get like a pool of points based on your battles, and then you distribute them to your troops?
in XCOM, enemy unknown or enemy within. I think they're like the same game on like the 360 and PS3 and shit.
Demons Within.
Yeah, demons within. Demons.
Yeah, I'm
So-
actually to the demons page on my note.
So in those games, depending on how well your units do, like your soldiers do in battles, they'll gain XP for just themselves. And if they level up, they'll get a new rank. And when you get to that new rank, yeah, there's different like skill trees and shit. Like you can pick like this perk or this perk, and it's all specific to different classes. Like snipers can do this. What is a shotgun guy? Assault can do that. Shit like that. And then you have to like build loadouts for them. You can name them. I always name them stupid shit, but that doesn't matter. Yeah.
Mike, what are you doing?
He's just
Damon. Matt Damon.
Oh shit.
So XCOM's a good example. I wasn't going to use it, but I want to
Yeah.
piggyback because Jerry thinks XCOM is not an RPG, and Aaron thinks XCOM is an RPG.
Maybe it's just
XCOM
newer XComs. Maybe that's just the newer ones. Possibly.
Well,
I've
one
never
of the
played
things
older
that-
ones.
They're pretty much the same.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we agreed on was exploration, correct? And isn't like
guess so.
XCOM like decidedly not exploration based?
I mean, you can explore the map. I guess
Can you?
you
I
can.
don't think you played one recently.
You can definitely run around the map. You can send your guy over there if you wanted to, and he would like
No,
probably run
that's
into an
it
in
was
the
alien
like-
and get shot and die.
that's in the battle though. I'm not talking about exploring the like in the fight mode. I'm talking about like an overlapping world map where your characters just march around and find new things and explore new places, or are you just sent to the next battle after you beat a battle and you just go to the next battle and then you just go to the next battle and you just go to the next battle, and it's
Okay.
more like a set of scenarios like the Sparks of Hope Mario game where you just go to the next thing. It seems like you're exploring, but what you're really doing is just walking a set path to the next dot on the screen to do the next battle. That's what I think of when I think of XCOM.
Here,
Is that
here,
there's no exploration.
hold on. Here's one for you. Have you ever played a Fire Emblem game, Mike?
I have not.
Okay, so Fire Emblem, there is
pretty
no
much the same.
exploration at all. It's linear as fuck. So you just go from mission to mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people classify them as strategy RPGs, even though there's no exploration. But I guess maybe that's one of the elements that you don't need to have in an RPG. I don't know. Yeah, Fire Emblem, it's got to be an RPG. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe other
I-
people are right. Strategy games.
I do think
it's
of
a strategy game with RPG
Fire Emblem
elements.
when I
maybe?
think of when I think of Fire Emblem.
I've never played
I'm
them, and I
thinking-
think of Fire Emblem as an RPG. Yeah,
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
without playing them.
I've played like one. I've beat one, and it was the GBA one.
So
And that is
maybe-
literally just going from dialogue to battle to dialogue to battle. But I like that because I didn't like the dating simulator shit in like Three Houses. I didn't give a fuck about joining Gryffindor or wherever the fuck. Like I just wanted to get into the meat of the game. But it was like, nope, this is also a Persona game. And I was like, nope, that's not what I want from Fire Emblem at all.
and maybe
And I noped out of that so fast.
maybe the other people are right though. Maybe like strategy RPGs are like first and foremost strategy and like tactics games with like RPG shit sprinkled in, possibly.
That's a good point because
I guess that makes
it is
sense.
strategy first dash RPG. So it's a form of RPG, but it's strategy first
Yeah.
with elements of RPGs. So,
But to
that's a
most
good
people,
point.
that would feel like an RPG, correct? Like
Yeah.
you would think if we took a poll of just games like that, say so just put XCOM, Fire Emblem, whatever, Ogre Battle, and one Final Fantasy
Shining
Tactics.
Force. Yeah, there you go.
They don't have to call out which one, but you give them 4 or 5 things and say what percentage of these games are RPGs. Don't tell me which ones you're voting for. Give me a percentage. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%. I would
Yeah.
guess that most people would be at 80% or above. There'd be
Yeah.
one that maybe they didn't feel that it was too, or that it had enough RPG stuff in it for them. But most people would feel that the majority of those tactics
That's true.
games are RPGs.
Well, let me give you one of mine. Evo: Search for Eden on the Super Nintendo.
Oh fuck, that's a weird one.
Is that the
This
Shump
game,
one?
Did you say the shrimp one?
No, Shump. Like a shoot 'em up.
shrimp. You got one of them scramps.
Load out of the earl of my scraps. Shumps, dude. I don't know about these shump junkies.
Shumps. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
So Evo.
it is the game I was thinking of, but not the game I was thinking of.
Evo's a really weird game, but I like Evo.
Yeah.
It's essentially it's made by Enix before they joined with Square, and we know that Enix it prides itself in its Dragon Quest games and all the great old school RPGs and stuff. They also have some weird shit like this, but like there's something about this game. It has leveling up. There's exploration.
Oh yeah.
Like you are essentially choosing how you want to evolve over time. Like you start off as like basically like a fucking sperm, and you're just going around like chomping on shit. Enough.
Chomping on sperm.
Yep. And it's very clear if anybody's played this game. It's very clear looking at a screenshot, like the heads-up display is RPG. Like
HP.
there's an HP bar and there's an evil percentage, which I assume is your EXP,
Yes.
right
And
next
then
to it. I mean,
you-
what other genre of games has those, right?
Yeah. So whenever
That's
you
true.
eat food, like you kill other animals, and when you kill them, you get meat. The meat adds like experience points. Once you get enough of it, you can go in to the menus and go, okay, well now I want a dorsal fin. and it costs this much XP. Okay, so I'm going to level up. That dorsal fin affects you by changing your stats. Like it might make you swim faster. It might make you be able to do like a dash attack. So all of these evolution things that you get from experience change your character, and it changes in a progressive manner to continue through the game. There is a narrative.
Just like an RPG, yeah.
Yeah, hear me out here.
Yeah.
I think that it's an RPG. I'm pretty sure it is.
It sounds like it.
Pretty sure. But again, it's very unconventional. Also, this game was probably the first game that made me go, oh, side scrollers can be RPGs too.
Not Zelda
And
2? That wasn't the first one?
I didn't really play Zelda 2.
Castlevania
honestly.
2?
No, that's fine. Yeah. Or Symphony of the Night.
See, I played Symphony of the Night way late. Like way fucking late.
So this is your story then.
Yeah, this is my origin story, Mike. Come on.
Where's the Joker?
It was Aaron that started it.
Want to know how I got these gills? But yeah, like Evo is such a weird fucking game, but like at its core, it's an RPG. It's not the greatest game, but like I beat it recently, and it's pretty fun for what it is. It's a little grindy, but like again, isn't that kind of part of RPGs too? Isn't that like a cliche of RPGs, doing the grind?
I was gonna add that too. I guess that is a pretty RPG thing, because like
I don't like that though. I don't fucking like grinding.
Yeah.
I can't stand grinding.
you should.
I'm the
That's why you
opposite.
should play Chrono Cross. You never need to grind in
Love
Chrono
that.
Cross, baby.
I love grinding.
Do
I
you
got really
really?
upset playing
I love grinding on other men.
I do also like that. But this last year was the first time I played Chrono Trigger, which is probably like some sort of federal crime. But it was
Nah,
the first time I
not at
touched
all.
it. And one of the things that I got, like especially during the first half of the game, that struck me was the lack of grinding, which apparently is a feature, not a Mike thing. It's that the game's not supposed to be terribly hard. Like you don't need to grind too much to move to the next battle. You just need to be more intelligent with combining abilities and things like that, or figure out a
Exposing
boss's
weaknesses and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And not so much. But all I wanted to do was like, oh, there's a save point right here, and I can see 4 enemies from the save point. I know what I need to do. I need to sit here for a half hour and beat these guys until I gain like 3 or 4 levels, because that's what Mike does. Like that's like in my DNA. Like I'm playing Dark Souls 2 as my first Souls game right now, and every time that happens, every time there's a bonfire with guys in like that I can see from the bonfire, it's like, well, I guess I'm killing these guys 12 times until they don't spawn anymore.
Yeah, I forgot that's the thing in Dark Souls. If you kill stuff enough, they just disappear for good.
You can add to the
Some of
fire.
them. I did it. I remember
least on
doing it
2.
too. There's like a Black Knight in Dark Souls 2, like kind of early on, and you can cheese him fairly easily, to the point where like I just kind of figured it out on my own. I was like, oh, I can just like keep running up behind this motherfucker and doing backstabs. And
Yeah, the
running
hiding
doing
tower or
backflips.
whatever
Yeah.
with those huge,
Yes.
huge like Dark Knight. Yeah, and there's like 10 of them that are spaced out, so you can only have to fight them one at a time.
Yeah.
So you're just like, once you figure out patterns early in the game, you're like, oh wow, this is 400 experience, and I can do this until I want to.
Until you accidentally slip off a cliff or some shit.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I've only pulled certain amounts of hairs out. Learning how to play Dark Souls as this being my first Dark Souls games.
Why 2? Why'd you start at 2?
It's probably the easiest one. I would say.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know about
I
that.
explicitly picked it because I may have Googled which Dark Soul game is the worst, and then it almost I would say 90% of websites said 2 is the worst one. So I'm like, well, then obviously that's where I need to start.
See,
2 is not
the weird
that
thing,
bad.
The thing about the Dark Souls games, even 2, which is my least favorite, is still far and away a better game than most games.
And that's what a lot of people said, that like being the black sheep of the Dark Souls family still puts you above 80% of other games. And I'm like, well, so then I'm not playing a bad game. I'm just playing a game that's ill received.
It's kind of smart that you did that.
Games.
It's kind of smart to do it that way though, because like now you've played like what's considered the worst in the series. You can only go up from here, and like
That's true.
I could
Location,
probably,
location,
I would
location.
I would probably suggest Demon Souls next.
So I bought Dark Souls Remastered, and then I put it in the drawer, and took Dark Souls 2 out for the 360 and played that instead. I
Gotcha.
did
Is it
start
the
a save
Scholar of the
file
First
on-
Sin? Is it the?
It is, but what I found out about the 360 version is while it has all of the added, like the downloadable content, it doesn't like. There's parts of the game. So I was looking for a branch of yore forever because there's a lot of spots you can't get to certain levels without unfreezing characters that are stone in front of a switch and I was following because I have the Scholar of the First Sin version of the Xbox 360 one. I was asking friends on Twitter, where is the first branch that you encounter, and did I miss it? And they're like, oh, you're playing the Scholar version, it should be here. And I went to that place and it wasn't there. And then they're like, oh, this the old hag with the huge bag should have one, and she didn't. So then people are like, are you sure you're playing the Scholar of the First Sin? And I took a picture of my box, and that's really big letters. What I found out is that the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions they have the downloadable content, but the core game isn't changed. It's just content added, and it's still vanilla Dark Souls 2 for the core game elements.
What?
They didn't change the entire overall game to the Scholar version until you did the Xbox One PS4 version of Scholar.
What?
So apparently
What?
the second this generation of Scholar of the Sin is some sort of amalgamation of the downloadable content. So I was taking all sorts of hints from people who had no idea where I was, apparently, like including
I did not know
order. Yeah, I didn't either until 2 days ago. So and I've been playing for 2 weeks.
Holy shit! And I mean,
Anyway, we got way off track here.
At the top of these stairs is Elden Ring.
Well, let's talk about let's not get too far away from Evo because I'm really interested in Evo.
Yeah, okay, so
let's figure out what things they doesn't have. Like, because you said that you don't think most people feel like it's an RPG, but you do. So what if somebody was going to argue that it's not? Where do you think
it barely has storytelling?
Okay,
barely.
So no narrative or very
Not
little
really.
narrative.
No.
You said it does have exploration, but since we established that it's a 2D side scroller, I assume the exploration
there's a lot of verticality to it. Yeah.
But it's pretty linear, I assume. Like it's this level, then the next level, then the next level, and not really an overworld map. Or is there?
There is a world map,
and you can go where you want freely.
Yeah, you move you kind of like go around, and like when you get to an area, like the word will pop up of like what that area is, and then you go into it.
So like say you're in area 7, can you just go back to area 2 because you feel like it and you want to grind there?
No, because as time progresses and the more you evolve, it's almost in like chapters. So like once you evolve out of the water and onto land, you don't go back to the water. Like you don't.
So that
devolve.
Feels linear. So I could see somebody arguing that as well. Like you are locked into certain levels, which would not happen in a traditional RPG.
It's definitely linear, and I don't even know if there's any side quests. It's pretty straightforward.
Which I'm sure somebody else would argue too. But we established that it's got a combat
system. Yeah, it's got math. It's got a combat system. There's a leveling system with some gauge of, experience points or some kind of currency that you have to spend to level up.
And we would argue, and like you said, not traditionally, but it does have world progression because the world is changing with your actions as you move. So really, I would say that's probably got of the 6 things that we came up with. It's got 4 of them. It's got math, combat, character stats, and world progression. So even though it lacks traditional exploration and narrative, it still is, whatever. What is this percentage? 65% in RPG, 70% in RPG.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Most people would take that. We're still talking about Evo, Aaron.
Okay.
We went back to Evo.
Okay.
We should just start a website that doesn't rate games like by like what they are. It's just like how much of a percentage is this game an RPG? Instead of like rating like, is this a good game? No, is it an RPG? That's what everybody wants to know.
Is it an RPG? Yeah. Would be a great like weekly Discord topic too. Here's a game that's not traditionally viewed as an RPG. Is it? Yes or no, and then talk about
Spelunky.
it. And then you could keep a list of how many people think it's what percentage of your Discord thinks it's an RPG and what isn't. We could have lots of fun with this.
Like a turn it into like a blog or something too. Like, oh,
Yeah.
our Discord says blah, and then what do you think? Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Maybe that'll end up being my portion of your blog,
There you
exclusive
go.
to your blog, is just Mike talking about games that aren't RPGs, but they are.
Dude, a whole bunch
Are
of
you RPG? Just like the letter R and the letter U and then RPG.
Yes.
RPG. What
So
about
you both picked one. I'll pick one.
yeah?
Yeah.
A game that's not traditionally viewed, because we spoiled this one. We talked about it ahead of time, but I think that people want to hear about it.
Let's hear
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
Ready?
Okay. So hear me out. Let's go from the top, and so let's work forward. What things does it have?
Okay.
Based on our list, narrative. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Definitively,
Okay,
Grand
goddamn
Theft Auto has a good story, correct?
They do, yeah. They do have
Great
Exploration?
fucking main villain. Yep.
Exploration. Grand
For
Theft
sure.
Auto is like
That's
a core exploring game with
Yep.
a huge overworld map. World progression, character progression. Absolutely, Grand Theft Auto.
He can get
has
fat as shit.
Yeah, or be really good with handguns, get really good at swimming. Like, plus the world changes. As you move on, you unlock different parts of the map. The world gets bigger. It's a
I didn't
core
even get to
mechanic of Grand
Fuck.
Theft Auto. That's core Grand Theft Auto stuff. Character
damn it, Mike.
stats. Absolutely, it has character stats. Like we talked about, CJ levels up individual things by using them. It's a use-based, like Final Fantasy II style leveling system, where the more you do things, the better you get at it. You drive cars more, you level up your driving ability. You shoot shotguns more, you level up the shotgun. You swim more, you become a better swimmer and can go underwater longer. Correct? I think that's part of that.
Yeah.
Combat. So combat would be a little divisive. It does have combat, but it's clearly not RPG style combat, and it's not even action RPG style combat, because there's a set number of like bullets that an enemy can take. Like, it's not random. We could argue, or at least we could argue it's not random. If you how many tank shots a police car takes to blow up, and it's pretty consistent.
One.
Or you know how many baseball bat swings it takes to kill a civilian. One. So one could argue that the combat, while it is there, it is not traditional to the genre. But we got 4 or 5. So then it comes down to math. Is there enough backdoor math in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas? Maybe there is, because once again, there is an RPG style leveling system, but it's not really random. There is randomness to the loot that people drop, like, bullets and health and stuff like that. But it's not, like the same items are in the same places every time you go. Like, we know where the tank is, like, where like an armor is going to be every time you start the game, that kind of thing. But even at 4 out of 6 things on our list that we came up with, is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas an RPG?
Here's like a really similar game. Have you ever played Crackdown?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, boy.
I just talked about how Crackdown makes me look at buildings weird because I think about climbing them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know all about it. Yeah, Crackdown has a lot of those same elements. You level up your driving by driving, you level up throwing by throwing, you level up shooting by shooting, shit like that. But like even that, I don't know if I'd really consider it an RPG. It's more of like an action adventure game with some like really light RPG elements, being like the XP and all that shit. And I think I would probably say the same thing for Grand Theft Auto, because like ultimately like even if it does have like an explorable world map, and you affect the map with like all the shit that you do, like that's not to say that those are definitively RPG elements, because like
According to us, they are.
God damn, you suck.
According to the way we started the show.
God damn it. Because like, say for instance, Super Mario 64, not an RPG at all, but I mean you can affect like kind of the world, because you open doors and you can unlock shit to go to different places and stuff. But I mean that's not
based on your actions. That's just based on collection. Like, you get to number 8 of stars and the door opens. It's not like I did this I did this series of side quests like Grand Theft Auto. I did this series of missions and side quests, and that's what unlocked the next thing. It's just you count to number 4 and that's when the door opens.
Okay, then here's another counterpoint for you. Conker's bad for a day, not an
Playing it right
RPG
now.
at all. But yeah, the different shit that you do heavily affects the world. Like you keep bringing the fucking hive back to the queen. All the wasps are fucking dead because you annihilate them with machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is it? You kill all the cows and shit like that, and they're or like not even you kill lots of enemies and their bodies just stay there on the ground and everything. Like the rest of the world's affected. Not an RPG though. Like
But that's just one element. Like I said, if we're going forward with the game being an RPG, you have to have your heart in the right place. Conquer
yeah,
is at its core it's a platformer. So then
that's true.
you're trying to find elements to turn it into an RPG.
I guess
So
it's
that
stuff
maybe
that has to jump out at you and be like, this is obviously a focal point of the development of this game was the combat system or the progression, like the leveling and stuff, or like the world design and how the world changes. Like, I think it should be up front. Like, this was a focal point of the development of this game. Like,
so
this
like
is
Ubisoft
part
and
of
their
its.
development of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Oh, so just when you feel like it's a core vision of the
Yes.
development. Got you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
This was our whole Discord conversation before we got to this episode.
It's just Mike running circles around us. Good
because
point, but also
because
this. Yeah,
like I said, it's fluid. It is very much fluid.
yeah.
Because I even though I just spent the last 5 minutes arguing for Grand Theft Auto as an RPG, I don't think it's an RPG. I don't, because it's not. Like it does because it doesn't feel like one to me.
I'm
Yeah.
watching
And
Aaron. I
that's
can visibly see Aaron's brain like folding in on itself.
No, I mean
like-
it's a good argument though, man. Yeah, I think that's kind of listeners like before this whole recording, even like just like what was it? It was Thursday or Friday. We made this pregame chat and we kind of like boiled all of our thoughts. I like a good pot of hamburger helper. We cranked it up to high, had a good discussion and or argument, and then
and
cranked it
then
down.
left Gerry out and ate all of it.
Exactly. No lasagna
Yeah.
for you.
No.
Yeah, then we kind of simmered our thoughts down. But yeah. It's I guess it does really have to do with like the feel of a game. I guess like say Mario and Luigi series, like it can kind of feel like a platformer at times.
Yeah.
Like hopping around and doing all that shit. Or even like Bowser's Inside Story where it's a lot of 2D platforming. It still ultimately feels like an RPG, like with the grand story, the combat and like the character progression and shit. That's
But one would argue
got-
that if you're talking about those games in your heart, for most people at least, you're gonna start the conversation feeling like it's an RPG, and I feel like that's the big sticking point for the way that most of these conversations go, is that you go in with a preconceived notion about what you think a game is, and a lot of people do that without playing them. So like I didn't want to
Yeah.
talk about Fire Emblem too much because I haven't played it. But I feel
So,
like it's an RPG, and if somebody talked to me about Fire Emblem, it would start at RPG, right?
That's
I got
true.
a wild one for you guys.
Okay.
Love it.
Have either of you ever played Resident Evil Gaiden on Game Boy Color?
I've heard of it. I've heard of that one.
That's one of the games I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to play it as an N64 adjacent Game Boy game based on like Aaron making me do all those handheld games for the summer.
Making you do it like I held you at gunpoint or something.
You literally did. You're like, you're gonna play ports of other console games. Come get back to me in a month.
Dear
So I'm
Mike.
like, I need to make a list of every N64 game that might have a Game Boy Color like side.
Mike's
game.
showing up at Aaron's office, and Aaron's just like sitting in a darkly lit room with a cigar in his mouth. He's like, "So did you finish the games?" And
I'm
Mike's
holding
like,
your family ransom. Play these games. They're all
That was
comes over.
one of my Twitter posts for like 3 straight weeks. Was like, these are the 4 games I played this week, so Aaron didn't kill me. Go back and look.
I'm gonna now. I must have missed that shit.
I
Yeah.
think I even tagged you in them.
Resident Evil Gaiden is a really weird one because it has exploration. It's got a story. There's a lot of story there, and it's got a combat system. And it's
that's right.
it is not a normal one. It is literally like a sort of like a action turn-based type of thing. And it is a very weird game. I beat that like I want to say last year because it was that was the first game that I beat on my Steam Deck of all things. And
It looks like Shadowgate or something, like the original NES. Like it looks like
So
a
you-
first person like corridor RPG kind of experience.
it's not. It's a top down, like you're running around and shit.
No, I mean like the
And you
combat screens. Like it's got your like the characters as like cards on the bottom, and then the enemies on top
Yeah.
as sprites, which is
Yep.
very core. Like all sorts of like dungeon crawling, first person like roguelike RPGs are set up in that way, where it's just you don't see sprites of your characters; they're just the cards across the bottom, and you attack one at a time to the enemies on top. Like it's got that feel. So anybody who didn't play this, me, looks at these and they're like, "Yeah, hell yeah!" Like that looks like an
Yep.
RPG.
And guess
Do
what?
you-
It's actually a pretty good game.
I'm looking at it. It looks really sweet. Do you gain levels or XP, or is it just like Resident Evil where you just kill an enemy and they're dead and that's it?
I can't remember. I don't think you do, but it's not something that jumps out at me right away. Like that's
Yeah.
not what I remember about it. I just remember the combat being very interesting and
So
not what
it's
you
listed as an
expect.
action adventure
Okay.
by 2 separate places I've been to so far. But once again, the basis of this conversation is who cares?
Right.
Who cares what the genre says?
Ultimately, who gives a
Like,
shit?
Who cares what IGN
Exactly.
thinks?
It's just like review scores. Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
if you let that affect you, then it changes the way that you feel about the game. So either you,
Yeah, Jeff Gertzman about your Diddy Kong Racing review.
yeah. Tell me the game's a 6.6.
Fuck. Yeah, this is a good one, man.
So are you arguing for Gaiden or again? Or
I'm
like,
arguing for it.
for. So we decided it's got a narrative, it's got exploration,
Yep.
it's got. We don't know about stats.
It's got
looks
a
more
it's
like-
got a specialized combat system.
Yep. So combat. So it's 3 things. We don't know about like hidden math, but at least narrative exploration.
There's definitely hidden math because I know that there's certain zombies that are much harder than some of the other ones, and like it's almost like
Do they drop random things?
Yes,
Because
I
that's
believe
you. Okay, so enemies dropping random things.
I
is
think
another
like
core
you'll get like a first
adventure.
aid or like first aid spray or like a herb
Sure.
or something from them.
It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. So once again, we're at like 4 of 6. So then it's
Yeah.
up to you.
It's a fucking RPG. It's an RPG, Mike.
Yeah.
Come on.
I trust
Come
you.
on, man.
I trust you too.
That's 67%. I had to do the math because we keep hitting 4.
67% in RPG. That's
At least.
that's a pass.
At least 67. At least. On a bell curve,
down.
that could be an ARPG.
I've got another good one for you guys. I hope either of you has heard of this game before. Dark Arms Beast Buster 1999. It's for the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
What?
No.
Dark Arms
I feel
Beast
like you
Buster
said that-
1999.
I feel like you said that in a way like you knew we weren't going to know what it was.
He's just reading off a screen. He's like, he in the middle of all this, he's typing in like, what are the most debated RPGs of all time? And he's like, this game, I wonder if you've played it. It's called Dark Ar.
I was just trying to say the full name, so like, because we were talking with when we were talking with video game esoterica, he mentioned there's like a whole series of Dark Arms games, and so this one I was trying
Oh,
to
is
like
it part of that?
yeah it's like a handheld
What?
version of that, but this one is it's like a top down shooter RPG. How the fuck do I so like yeah, top down shooter. You shoot like zombies and werewolves and shit like that, and you can capture them with your gun and use their parts to basically combine with your gun to make new like augmentations or abilities for your gun. And I don't I don't believe you gain XP and level up or anything like that. Like you just gain Oh,
But it does have a running catch number on the bottom for like out of 99, how many enemies you've caught, which seems like you're adding up to like max something, which one would argue is no different than an experience gauge. So.
that's true. And yeah, I think it's like you go back to to your base, or you go back to like a save point or something, and you feed all of those materials to like the sorcerer dude, and he enhances your abilities in certain ways depending on what you feed to it, shit like that. So I mean, it's got a very RPG feel, and there's lots of exploration because you go all over the world map. There's a story to it. Like, the story's not that great, but there is a story to it. Um, I mean, I guess you don't really affect the world all that much because the world stays the same.
That's the advertisement.
I mean, it's an action RPG. Yeah, I don't know. What do you? I mean, I feel like it takes maybe like 2 or 3 of the 6 boxes, I would say.
I had somebody argue with me one time before that what made an RPG is it's a long game.
No.
Any game's a long game if you suck at it.
That's true. Like,
That's very true.
I think Chrono Trigger only takes about maybe 15 hours to beat if you just go right through. You don't do any side stuff.
Chrono Trigger's short, man.
Yeah, it's super short.
Yeah, I played it without a guide and without allowing people to give me any sort of help whatsoever, and I think it took me 20. And that's only because I had to keep, like, first of all, I was probably grinding when I didn't have to.
Doing the mic
and then,
thing.
Yep, doing that thing. And then I was playing it in small chunks, like 45 minutes a night. So
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
that reacclimation point to a game where you're like, where the fuck was I? What was I doing?
We're fucking.
Oh, fuck, dude, I hate that shit so much.
And I'm old, so I mean, it just gets worse every day. Every day it gets worse.
That dementia's in there. I know it.
There's really been a learning curve with Dark Souls because I come back after not playing for a day and I'm like, what was I doing? And then you just fall off of, like, there's a bridge with one board missing. You're like, oh yeah, that's what I was doing, quitting because of this bridge. Which just happened to me today, by the way.
Shit.
Oh man.
So something else again. I can't go a day in my life without talking about Gomon. So I feel like I need to bring this up because
before we get to another game,
are we taking
should we take an ad break? Yeah, let's take an ad break.
We should take an ad break so I can pour myself another whiskey.
I love the advertisers.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're advertising.
The advertisers are
Woo-hoo,
what keep
for product
us
placement.
fed. Yeah,
That's right.
Keep
they
us
do.
fed.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
BRB.
This episode of Super Pod Saga was brought to you today by the real MVPs, the real sponsors of the show, the patrons, the official superstars. All of you are just awesome, fabulous, handsome, adorable, cute. I don't know what other words to throw in here, but you're all awesome. Every single one of you. It really means so much to me. It means the world, the galaxy, the cosmos. It's something bigger than the cosmos. I don't think there is anything bigger, but if there was, I would love you all that much. I'm stretching my arms out like this right now. So yeah, let's thank the patrons. A Novel Console, Jared Schrader, Jameson Empire, Adam Phineas, Trey, Adam Forrester, Jeff Miners, Jenny E, Kevin Demo, Thrak, and Mr. Kwong. All of you are your official superstars. You guys are the best. If I could meet every single one of you in person and give you a gigantic hug, a high five, and buy you a sandwich or something, I absolutely would, because God damn it, I love every single last one of you. Thank you, patrons, for sponsoring this episode and every single episode to come of Super Pod Saga. Thank you a lot. I mean it. Thank you so much. If If you're a fan of coffee and you're looking for something different, I think we've got just the thing for you. That's Bones Coffee. Bones Coffee is not your usual coffee company. Of course, it's all sugar-free, gluten-free, all that stuff because it's just coffee, nothing added to it. But they roast each batch of coffee beans to your order, and they've got just a bazillion different flavors to choose from. They've got your usual French vanilla, salted caramel, they've got Irish cream, of course they've got decaf, single origin coffees like Kenya, Guatemala, stuff like that, even what they call high voltage, which is extra strength, extra caffeine. But they have all sorts of other awesome kind of out of the box flavors. They've got ones like cotton candy, maple bacon, and even mint chocolate chip ice cream. And they're always coming up with new crossover flavors, like they've done a bunch for Nightmare Before Christmas, Indiana Jones, even Spider-Man, of all things. And they're also coming up with new seasonal flavors all the time. If this sounds right up your alley, feel free to use the link in our episode description and use coupon code SUPERPODSAGA at checkout to get 20% off your order. That's SUPERPODSAGA at checkout to get 20% off your order. And if you're not just in the market for coffee, you can also get some sweet mugs. They've got lots of cool shirts. They've got all sorts of different brewing equipment like French presses, stuff like that. Just head on over to bonescoffee.com, or again, use the link in our episode description and get 20% off. Get yourself a new interesting flavor and spice up your morning routine with Bones Coffee. I really hope you enjoy. I'm a really big fan of it, and I hope you find one that really hooks you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one.
Coming this fall to a theater near you. It's
Twisted Tales of Hot and Ready.
What should be the title for the Francis Boatman sequel? It's hot.
Oh, are we doing the ad
Ready.
now? What
Yeah,
I don't know
doing
what
the
this
ad now.
ad is. You're gonna have to take it away and I'll improv in.
So I'll start with like the whole thing, and then we'll
Lined
workshop a title as I go along. So yeah,
coming this fall to a theater near you.
Francis was a cop by day, and due to a freak thunderstorm / atomic radiation accident, he was morphed into a half-man, half-boat hybrid at night. He fights maritime crimes at night only on the sea. If he has to be in a shipyard at night. Otherwise, if he turns into a boat while he's in his house, holy shit!
Yeah.
It's Francis Boatman. You liked the first movie. You thought it was great. Now it's time for Boatman 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
No, Return of John Toon.
John, dude, what the fuck? What?
You know, like Pontoon, but it's John Toon. It's the rival. It's the bad guy.
John, dude. Oh my god!
It's like you guys don't know any boats.
Yeah, it's like and his arch nemesis Hover Matt.
Yeah. They really like to play Dave Race 64.
Dave Race.
This is just names now. Sorry, sponsor.
Water.
Boat noise.
Dude, that's the slogan for the movie. Yeah, it's Boatman 2, Maritime Boogaloo. He's
Yeah.
when
I'm still sticking with Return of John Toon.
John Toon is great. John Toon, yeah. John Toon, he's back for revenge. He's stealing the
piss out of the ocean.
stealing the piss. He's stealing the water. There's no ocean left.
Make it topical. He's adding microplastics.
Oh yeah, because he's a party.
Saving the turtles.
He's a party pontoon boat. He's all the bottles.
John Toon,
and-
you mean?
Yeah.
Party John Toon.
My bad. Boys, help me out.
Atlantic
He's
John
been slowly
Tune.
grinding up detergent bottles and non-recyclable colored plastics of all assorted types and poisoning the water supply.
And fuck Aquaman.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's the trailer. He's just flipping off a poster of Aquaman.
John Toon took Francis Boatman's kids, and he's holding them ransom. He's holding them in his
Theodore
house.
Tugboat.
And his boathouse.
I was gonna say, guys, his houseboat named Ted. Ted's holding them a ransom.
Well, don't be ridiculous. The houseboat doesn't have to have a name.
That's true. It's just a
Now you're
regular
taking it too
houseboat.
far. Yeah, it's just a
This-
regular house.
This is. I want to eventually have like a whole X-Men kind of universe where like different human
The
boat
extended-
hybrids.
The extended boatman universe.
It's the same like atomic spill in the water, and then lightning, and then they all like were like, I'm Francis, but now I'm a boat, and then he's a fucking boat. I'm in constant pain. He's just got arms and shit on this boat.
That's my secret, Aaron. I'm always a boat.
I'm fucking trolling, dude. It's like, dude, this is exactly like Static Shock, but like on the ocean with boats. Coming this fall, will fucking Francis Boatman save his family from
It's boatman.
Will Boatman save his family from John Toon and his evil houseboat? Find out this fall on Boatman 2 Maritime Boogaloo.
Coming this fall.
On a Sunday.
/Christ alive. Coming arson.
Burn your family to the ground on the ocean floor.
I'm in constant pain. They have little T-Rex arms coming out of the fucking tub.
My dad fucked my mom too hard and made me a sea-doo.
Maybe we'll get a return of Metalocalypse, and they can do Mermaider again, but Mermaider 2.
The sea dude. Oh my god. We're back.
You can't just you gotta. There's gotta
No, we
be a
are back.
buffer. Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's redo it. Take us in, Mike.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Let's all
Hey, we're
go
back.
to the lobby. There we go.
Yeah.
My neck hurts so much. That was
My
so
neck,
good.
My back,
dude.
my Reese's, and my snacks.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jerry, go. You were going with Goemon.
Was I going with something? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Goemon. I've never ever brought this franchise up, so I figure
never
I
talk
feel
about
like
it.
it's about time that I do. Which fun fact at the time of this recording, Video Game Esoterica posted a video. You know how Majora's Mask got that really cool like PC port?
Yeah, the
Where,
recon.
like, Yeah, so they just did that with Mystical Ninja 64. So it's now on PC. So
60 frames per second.
Yup. So, yeah, the Mystical Ninja games, and I don't even mean Mystical Ninja 64 specifically, because like Mystical Ninja 64 is essentially just Zelda. Like, that's what that game is at its core, really. You're, exploring areas, and it's an action adventure game. I don't know what the RPG elements would be. I guess you could say that it has a stylized combat system, because you're switching between characters, and each character has a different set of like actions that they can do, and even like abilities that help progress through the game.
Yeah, so it's got the Metroid style progression.
Yeah,
Because you need to switch the characters to get through places.
exactly. There's no leveling system, and there's no experience points, but there's like a currency that you can spend to get certain items and stuff, but like I wouldn't really consider that an RPG element.
But it does have narrative and exploration.
There is a narrative. Yep, there is definitely a narrative. Lots of exploration. That's kind of like the thing with that game.
Mhm.
But the old games as well, again, they're side scrollers, but they have a lot of RPG elements. There's fucking towns, dude. Like
Mhm.
that actually, I forgot. That's one thing that jumps out at me. Like when I play an RPG and I'm like, dude,
Oh yeah, towns.
does it have fucking towns? Because if it doesn't have towns, I don't want to play a game without towns. And when I played Dragon Quest XI for the first time, I was like, holy fuck, yes. This game has fucking towns. And not just towns, like towns. Like
Yeah, they all have
fucking
different
pound
fucking.
town.
They all have
Like,
different
we are
accents and shit too, dude.
Yeah, and like each town has like its own feel. Like you walk into this town and it's like, oh, like there's a certain layout to it. There's like, certain characters. Like the town itself is a character. And for me, towns have always been a big thing. Even like Ocarina of Time. You got the Kokiri Village, which
Classic
is like a
RPG.
little town. Yeah. But like there's something about having towns in a game that really make it feel like an RPG for me. Like towns, dungeons, and fucking castles.
And fucking in castles, yeah.
It is cool
Fucking in a
that you brought up
castle.
towns because I believe that 2 of the RPGs you've mentioned so far were Hybrid Heaven, which has no town because you're all in one area, and you brought
You're in
up
one
Evo,
spot.
which has no
Yep.
towns because you're outside in the Mesozoic era eating dinosaur bones. So.
Two
That's true.
dudes out of 10.
It did get 2, so you've hit narrative and exploration, and then we just don't know about the rest of it. Maybe character world progression you could argue for going on, so maybe 50% an RPG
Yeah.
or close to 50%.
That's definitely a thing.
And don't
Just
you
no
And like
stats.
there's a world map. There's a
Yep.
world map.
and don't you like unlock? I know on the SNES one you could buy new moves or unlock new moves somehow. So like that kind of feeds into it a little bit, I
yes.
think. Unless I'm thinking of something
Maybe.
different.
I have not
Um,
played the NES one, so
Yeah, like all the side scroller ones on the Super Nintendo are like they have towns. There's progression and like there's a narrative. I think the only real thing that's kind of missing there, like you could argue that it doesn't have a like a stylized combat, like some kind of a specialized combat, other than like it being like a hack and slash, I guess is what it is, because you're just kind of going around hitting stuff. And it's like a platformer in that sense, but like yeah, there's definitely exploration in the game too, because like there's like veering paths throughout the level, but it kind of just pushes you forward. Like there's no, but then again, there is backtracking too. Like you'll have to go back to like towns and shit to like talk to somebody and be like, oh, I need to get this thing so I can get this pass so I can get to this next area and stuff like that. And like you'll have to like talk to somebody and be like, hey, I seen this fucking thing on this road the other day, bro, and like you should go see it. And then like you go see it and it's like, oh, there's just this fucking enemy, and then you kill it, and then you go back to the town and he's like, yeah, man, here's your pass, and then you just go.
but that's one would argue that's core RPG stuff. Like that's every fetch
Yeah.
quest ever. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that it's a 3D action adventure game. It's doing RPG stuff.
Yep, 100%.
So
feel
one of
that,
the other
man.
things that we brought up earlier was the whole sports thing. I think we should just conquer that before we get too deep into this.
Football manager.
Well, like
Oh, fuck, dude.
so we
Have you
can start
seen
with one
Tommy's
that's
blog. It's nuts.
oh god,
Go ahead.
and I used to play head coach. Like I don't know, you guys like NFL football at all? Like you're Canadian. I don't know if you like real like football with hands, but I mean,
We
Um,
prefer pucks.
I actually love hockey. So I was like, so Super Blood Hockey is another one of those games, like Golf Story, which was the game I was going to start with. So let's start with a sports game that's definitively RPG. Golf Story, or things like the Mario Golf,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Game Boy Color
those
game.
games are like a fucking Pokemon game with golf in the middle of it.
Yeah. So while they lack combat, one could argue that instead of so Aaron brought up that there needs to be bosses, but the boss doesn't necessarily need to be like something you have to defeat with combat. You can defeat them with golf,
Yeah, whatever
and
like
that's
the
something that
main
yeah.
gameplay shit is.
And outside of that, it has everything. Narrative. You unlock the world. there's very clear character progression because you level up all of your golf stats. And obviously there's math because golf is an imperfect science. Like it's not like you hit the same A pattern every time and it does the same thing. There's still wind and lie and what club you're using. It's like different items and different, so there's all the stuff that's in an RPG, but somebody has to, when you're suggesting that game to somebody, you have to hope that they can jump the shark or whatever right away. Like, can I turn a sports game into an RPG in my head before I start? Because if they can't, they're going to be like the people who argue with me out loud saying, well, Golf Story is a golf game. It's called Golf Story. It's very clear what it is. It doesn't matter if it has RPG elements. You're still playing golf 50% of the time in the game. Same with Mario Golf. You're still playing golf 50% of the time. So then, is a sports game or a sports RPG if the thing you're doing most of the time is still the sport? So the other really big ones are the NCAA football games, the college sports football games, or even college basketball games, because they have extremely deep recruitment processes. Like between seasons, you take your coach and your recruiting team and you go out and you have like text lists and
Oh, Tommy
dialogue
talked about
options.
this. This sounded like it was like Persona, but like football.
Yes, it's
pretty much.
exactly that. Yep.
Okay,
You're going to
yeah.
all right, I'm going to visit, I need a running back or I need a, point guard. So let's do football though. I need a running back. So you get a list of like 60 running backs that are available this offseason in the country that go to these high schools. And you need to decide out of 60, like what 5 you're going to recruit the hardest. So you allocate experience points.
Bradley.
You pick all the Bradleys. You pick all the Bradleys and you allocate all your recruitment points to the Bradleys. And then depending on how you talk to them and what things you try to sell them on, like our stadium's the best, our weight room is great, we have good environment. And it goes, then you pass a week, the stats have changed. You have to decide if you're going to continue the conversation in that manner or if you're going to change your thing, change your approach. And then you get one of them, you win. Your recruitment process wins. And then it's about character progression. Like what drills are you going to have them do? Like, are you going to have them do speed drills so they level up their speed? Like, are you going to have them do catching drills so that they're better out of the backfield catching the ball? Like, sports games are hard RPG like elements. Like if you took the football element and just simulated all of the football games and didn't play any of the actual football, you just let the computer simulate the football games and just did everything else, it would just be an RPG. 100%. It would hit every one of the beat points on our thing, minus maybe like world progression.
Exploration.
But even then,
yeah.
But there's a world map. Like you're still going around and like going to high schools and recruiting. Yep. But half of the time you're playing football. So then if you can't in your head work past this being a football game, it's never going to be an RPG to you. Like it's just not going to happen for you. But for some people, that's as close to RPG as they get. Like people play fantasy football not knowing that fantasy football is just Dungeons and Dragons for jocks. Like, like, or fantasy sports. It's just numbers crunching. You're just picking names. You're not playing football. You're looking at a list of statistics and you're picking players for your fake fantasy team. Like you're building a roster of something you're not playing. That's an RPG. Like that's a tabletop RPG. Like that's what fantasy football is. Cause you're not like you can't affect the games at all. Just how you manage your team. Just the things that you can control. And it's all math. So if you take the sports out of sports games, they are probably some of the most comprehensive RPG games on any system, and probably the ones that are most popular. Because I just think the thing today that Madden 97 was one of the best-selling games of 1996 over games like Resident Evil and stuff like that. So many people have played them, but probably don't consider them RPGs because you have to play football.
Yeah, same with like MLB The Show, and I might even kind of try to argue like the same with like the Forza games, because like you gain like a driver level and that unlocks more cars, and then of course you have a heavy emphasis on stats for your cars and how you can tune them, and like but at its core, yeah, it's a racing game.
No, it's a car PG.
Yeah, car PG.
Oh, what would you guys say are like your, like, if you're off the top of your head, top 3 RPGs in your like gaming life, what are they?
Final Fantasy IX, Earthbound, Chrono Cross.
Mike?
I mean, if we're going by favorites, my list would be different. But based on like which games I think were the best that I've played, Final Fantasy II in the United States, Grandia 2, and then
That's a good
Borderlands.
one. Mm.
And I don't know if
Interesting.
people think Borderlands is an RPG, but that's like core RPG. And if you don't think Borderlands is an RPG, then I put Diablo 2 would be my next most played, I suppose.
You're just trying to piss people off.
Well, do you think Borderlands is an RPG or is that a first person shooter?
Absolutely. It's got the RPG feel because you have that XP bar like prominent all the time, and the skill trees and the gear and like lots of numbers. It's
But
that one.
that's a hard hurdle for some people too, because you're in first person and there's guns.
That's true, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Fallout. There's literally like in Fallout 3, I mean, yeah, you can change the perspective, but like it literally has VATS, which is like almost a turn-based fucking system.
But that's usually the
Like-
thing that people used to argue that Borderland isn't, because it lacks the VATS. Like it lacks the combat mechanic that makes
But there's still
Borderlands
math.
different.
There's still
than
stats
Oh yeah,
and
no,
math.
it's all the stuff, but that the feeling of the VAT system makes Fallout feel more like an RPG because you can stop and strategize and play it like a turn-based game almost.
Yeah.
Because where Borderlands never has that. It's always real time in Borderlands.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess you could
And
probably go ahead.
If you're wondering, my 3 are Super Mario RPG,
Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana 2, so Second Densetsu 3.
Ocarina of Time.
Final Fantasy 9.
Final Fantasy what?
9.
Oh hell yeah, that's my man right there.
It was a return to the classics.
I was gonna say Destiny and like Destiny 2, those are kind of almost like hard sells as RPGs as well.
They're like
Because like
MMOs almost.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
not even like MMORPG to a point.
But some
'cause they're-
people argue
they're-
that they're not MMOs either.
Just think of it like first person Diablo, and then you can
Basically.
then you can tie the thread, because they're first person Diablo with guns, small party online,
Just like
instead of
Borderlands.
massively multiplayer. Yeah,
yeah,
like you're playing with a party of 4 to 8 instead of a party of 1 billion. Like on whichever like World of Warcraft. Like there's a difference between Diablo and World of Warcraft, but we know that they're both online and they're both RPGs, or at least in my mind they are.
What's really funny, when Greg and Beth and I started Super Ghost, we pretty much started that because we got into Final Fantasy 14 online at the same time, and we pretty much just played that fucking game exclusively for a full year because we went through every single expansion together. And that was a weird thing for me because like Greg already liked MMOs. Like he played WoW. And Beth was just like, I love Final Fantasy games, so I'm willing to check this out. I don't like MMOs, or at least I didn't think I did until I started playing that game. And it was weird because I was trying to find ways to disconnect myself from it being an MMO, to the point where I played that game exclusively with a controller, and I completely altered the UI because it's fully customizable. I basically made that game play exactly like Xenoblade, and I made it look like
Okay.
Xenoblade. Like it looked like if you see me playing the game, you'd be like, "Oh, this is just like a what game is this?" Like you wouldn't like. I turned off like all of the other people like in the world, like the other players, turn their names and shit off because I don't give a fuck about them. I'm here for the story. Like I'm not here to play online with people because the story is so fucking good in Final Fantasy 14 that I was like, this is all I'm here for. I mean, I got my other friends. So it was basically, to me, it was like a single player RPG, action RPG that I could play co-op. That's how it felt to me. Because I didn't give a shit about like fucking playing with a bunch of other people to the point where like, they'd be like trying to queue up like doing like the raids and stuff. And I'd be like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really care. I'm just here for the story. If the raids have a cool story part, then I'll go play it. But like, that's
Hell
not
yeah.
what I'm here for. I'm not here to hang out with fucking people. But we ended up doing that after. Like got sucked in. It was bad. It was a bad time. But it was a good time. It was a good time. It was a good time and a bad time.
So what you're doing is manually limiting yourself.
Yes.
Like you're taking elements out of a game that is pretty definitively an RPG, and you're making it less an RPG, but still an experience that you feel like is an RPG. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
There's not a lot of games that you can do that with.
So here's another example of a combative version of that, but it's forced on us. So we pretty much agree that the Pokemon games are RPGs. The base Pokemon games, Red, Blue, whatever, are RPGs,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So then
Yeah.
if you take elements like exploration and collection out of that, you're left with Pokemon Stadium. Is Pokemon Stadium an RPG?
I wouldn't think so, man.
There's
that's,
no exploration.
That's more of like.
But that's just one thing out of 6, right?
Is there a
That's
story?
Yeah.
What's the story?
for which one? Coliseum or Stadium?
Either Stadium 1, 2, 3, Coliseum.
I don't
Well,
think
so
there's-
let's
There's 3. I own all 3 of them, Jerry.
let's slap the brakes on this guy because like I know for sure Coliseum, like there's a whole overworld and like
that's
a
a
whole
different one, though,
story.
right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like
that's a GameCube one.
yeah, that's for sure. Like that and like XD, those are definitely full blown like Pokemon RPGs. But
Yeah,
like
Gale.
like Stadium, I would almost kind of put it in like not like a fighting game, but like a one-on-one versus kind of thing. Because like yeah, it doesn't have like the same feel as like a mainline Pokemon game.
Correct. It doesn't have the feel, but it does have the math. It does have the combat. It has the character stats and items.
Yeah.
Like it's got character.
Does it
progression.
have random items and shit? Like, do you get items for
No, but you're
winning battles?
using items. You do acquire items from mini games and stuff like that. All the other stuff that goes along with the main game.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have exploration outside of moving on to the next tournament, and it doesn't really have an overlapping narrative other than to be the best, like every other Pokemon
that
game.
ever was.
Well, but like that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you think about like Pokemon Red, how many things does Red say in Pokemon Red? Like how many lines of dialogue?
Fucking none,
Any?
other than like yes or
Zero.
no.
Silent
0. So the narrative is collect the Pokemon and be the best. Like there is a story, we know it's there, but it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's just
That's
there
true.
whether you do it or not. You can skip all the lines of dialogue. It doesn't affect the Pokemon game because the goal is to catch them all. Like it says it right on the fucking box. It's to catch them all and be the best. It has nothing to do with the narrative. So the traditional Pokemon games don't
Look, it
necessarily.
says it on the box.
It
Look
does.
at it.
And they've gotten better with it over the years. Like obviously now we have much more elaborate storylines with Pokemon. Even like when you get up
Yeah.
to the like Legends Arceus games, there's a pretty big like text wall at the beginning. There's a half hour of stuff before you get going. But in the Red and Blue era, which tie into the Pokemon Stadium games, there was very little. Just like the Pokemon Stadium games have very little. But if you just set somebody down in front of the Pokemon Stadium battle system and gave them a team against another team and
That's
didn't
true,
show them what
yeah.
happened before you got to that point, and said,
How do you
"What kind of game
acquire your team though? You don't
you
actually
can either
like.
you can carry them
rent
over
a
from
team.
Pokemon. You can rent a team, or you can plug them into the transfer pack and bring all of your Pokemon from Pokemon Red and Blue
Yep.
to Pokemon Stadium. So you can bring all of your RPG earned characters with you to Pokemon Stadium.
But then that just seems like an add-on. It doesn't really seem like a fully fleshed out RPG. It's like it's a companion to another game that kind of uses the other game. Like I wouldn't say like I'm still on the fence about this being an RPG.
I could
To
So,
me,
but like
this
what,
is
like
the
what
one
you
that
said
doesn't
is
feel
you
like
took
feeling like
what
an
it's what
RPG,
it's
though.
so you took Final Fantasy 13 and you chopped out a bunch of stuff that you didn't want to do. Correct?
14 online, yeah. the
14
MMO.
online. Sorry, not
Yeah.
13, 14. 14. So you took 14 and all of these elements and you decided which ones you want to engage with. I don't want to do raids. I don't want to interact with other players. I don't want to do any of the MMO stuff. I just want to hang out with my friends and I just want to do stuff single player. So like taking Pokemon and deciding I don't want to do the exploration. I don't want to follow a story. I just want to take my Pokemon and I want to battle them. Is that not like self-imposing a pile of rules to make that the RPG that you want to play? Like, what if people just want to battle their Pokemon in an RPG setting, which is Pokemon Stadium?
Okay, yeah, just let go my
That's
throat.
true, man. Yeah. Here's another good one for you though. Like, how familiar are you guys with like the newer Paper Mario games, like Origami King, or even like before
Origami
that?
King was so good, but also
I really
that's
like Sticker Star, and people don't like it.
I've heard that got shit on like horrifically when it
It did.
came out, and then
Yeah,
people were
it
like,
wasn't
"Wait,
that bad. It
this is
wasn't
not a bad
terrible.
game."
Yeah,
Is it the
it's
Wii
pretty
What
U
good.
people
one?
wanted was
That's
for
the
Nintendo
3DS
to make
one.
it's
Right.
the 3DS one.
Yeah.
What the Color Splash is the Wii U one. What people wanted was after Thousand Year Door, they wanted Nintendo to remake Thousand Year Door with a different story every year for the next 8 years. And what Nintendo did instead was like, nope, we're gonna make Super Paper Mario, then we're gonna make Color Splash, then we're gonna make Sticker Star, we're gonna do 2 more inside stories, and then we're gonna do Origami King, and they're all gonna be wildly different, and you're just gonna buy them. And we did.
That's
But
true, man.
now that Brothership's coming out, that definitely
Yeah.
looks like a throwback to the
Yeah.
very first one.
It is.
And thank
But
God.
Nintendo said we're going to do stuff crazy instead of remaking the same game. And I think that we should praise them for that as opposed to dumping on them for not making. Because everybody said, if you play any Mario RPG game after Thousand Year Door or any Paper Mario game after that, you're just doing it wrong. And it's always the person with like the biggest neck chin beard you've ever seen in your life. Like,
For real,
just
man.
dominating the whole profile picture. And they're always the people who say that.
The whole circle. Oops.
It's always
Yeah, man.
this angle too.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
Dude.
You can't see it at home, listeners, because you're not viewers, but it was perfect. It's exactly what you think it is.
Man, yes. So with Origami King, and even like no, I've never played Super Paper Mario actually, but like with Origami King, there's a lot less like there's no XP system or whatever the XP
Yep.
system was. There's no like they've kind of not necessarily watered it down, but I guess like stripped quite a few of like the traditional RPG elements out of it, but it still feels like an RPG. But I guess if you were to like push the game onto somebody that has never played Paper Mario before, they don't know what Paper Mario. Well, I guess I mean I'm sure they know what Paper Mario is, but even if they haven't played it, it should feel like an RPG to them. But I don't know. What do you guys feel about that?
I think it is, but I totally understand people who think it isn't because
Yeah.
it's lacking traditional RPG elements because they've tried to explore what they can do with the series.
Yeah.
Which is
well, again,
what we're
I
talking
guess that's
about
like
here.
the whole
Yeah.
that's the whole point of this conversation really today is like, at the start of this, near the start of it, I said, does something that has RPG elements automatically qualify it to be an RPG? And I feel like we've kind of narrowed it down to like it's a big maybe, and it's like
Yeah.
it comes down to personal preference really at the end of the day. And Mike, you said it very well at the beginning of this too. It's all about gatekeeping. It's someone trying to be like, no, I know what an RPG is, so you listen to me because I've been playing them for fucking 30 years. And you're like, yeah, well, I invented Dungeons and Dragons, so I don't give a fuck.
And that's why every time somebody tells me a game on the N64 isn't an RPG, I add another one to the list to be annoying. Because I'm reverse gatekeeping. I'm going to force my interests on you
Densha
more and more
go.
every time. Yeah, it's close.
Is
It's
that the
fucking
train
close.
one?
Yeah,
It's close.
Oh yeah.
go get your
So much
watches,
math
man.
in
Come
that
on.
game. There's so much
Go
math.
get your watches out.
So yeah,
Exploration, math, world progression.
yeah, it's such a gigantic maybe, man. Because yeah, I'm even kind of like I'm looking at my shelf of games over here, and I'm seeing like the Castlevanias and stuff, and like
They're maybes.
yeah, they feel like RPGs, but they're mostly platformers,
Action.
exploration,
Yeah.
yeah, action.
And it depends on which one you played. Like the DS ones,
Super
and the Game
Castlevania
Boy Advance
4
ones.
is not an RPG.
No, but the next game that came out, the Game Boy Advance one, was
Yeah,
Circle of the Moon. That's an
Yeah.
RPG.
That's an
It is-
RPG.
I mean,
you
so it
level
depends
up,
on which one you
Yeah,
play.
you
like-
can equip new shit. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
So we don't have an answer is the biggest like draw from this. It's like
That's the best part about this. We knew that we weren't going to have an answer. So like all the
that we
listeners
weren't
are
gonna
like,
agree.
oh yeah, we're going to finally figure it out. Quest 64 Mike's going to tell us all what an RPG is. And at the end, you're just like, we don't know what the fuck it means.
No,
Okay. We don't have the answers. Like God didn't come down and be like, you guys know the answers.
It's
Here's
just,
we're
what an
never gonna
RPG
agree.
is.
The world is never gonna agree on this, and everybody
And
will
that's
have their
fine.
own list. Yeah, it's great. In fact, it's better.
yeah, go into it with an open mind. Be like, whether it is or is not an RPG by definition, like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Go
does
into
that
it with
matter?
an
Does that matter
open
to you?
mind,
Not
a
at
puffed out chest, and a swollen dick. That's the
It's
best way
exactly-
to go into it.
It's exactly like any episode of Ghost Adventures. They're like, we're gonna find out if there is a ghost here, and we're gonna see
And
for
then-
sure our ghost's real. And then they're like, oh,
Never
I-
a ghost.
Zach has a tummy ache. Well, see you on the next episode, and then that's it. Credits.
But like, just one more simple one-liner is: we don't want to be those people who like say the stupid thing. What's the stupid thing you hear? Every game's an RPG because you play a role. We're not advocating going around and saying that. Like, you're not
Yeah.
playing Super Mario World because you play the role of Mario. There's a difference between that and an RPG. It's just how much more do you need to make it an RPG to enjoy it like an RPG?
Yeah, or like the main feel of it, like the mouth feel of it, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term. Because
Yeah,
like,
if you can
No, I
pick
think
up
that's
a
a good
game,
term.
if you can pick up a game without reading the box, like with no information about it ahead of time, and it feels like an RPG, that should be enough for you. That should be it. That should be the end of the conversation with yourself. It doesn't matter what the game is, as long as you don't impose like somebody else's opinion about a game on yourself. All it should be about is, does this tick enough boxes for me? Does this have the right feeling for me? Is it an RPG or would I enjoy it even if it's not an RPG? So like Balatro, the card game, or Slay the Spire, the card game. If you've played any of those, are not RPGs, or they are, depending on who you are.
yeah,
Like, does it have
Yeah.
enough RPG elements to you to where it scratches the itch of playing an RPG? And if it does, that's enough. That's enough for you.
At the end of the day, we don't have the answers. But one thing that we do know is that we like RPGs. Like that's
We do.
that's
we love
that's
them.
that's the whole point of this is like all three of us love RPGs. Like we've all grown up on them. And I feel like having discussions like this are super fun because it's like you start peeling back layers that you never really thought of before, or maybe it's stuff that you thought about obsessively. And you were like, I feel like I need to let everybody know that The Great Tomato Adventure is a fucking RPG.
Or that
what's
you
that
would
called?
suggest it to somebody
Tomato
who likes
King or
RPGs.
something?
Tomato Kingdom. Yep.
Yeah, Tomato Kingdom. But yeah,
Because
like,
RPG players would like Tomato Kingdom.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude.
Exactly.
That was a good one to end it on.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to throw out real fast?
I don't want to overstuff the turkey. I feel like we ended. That was a solid ending.
That is a good one. I gave you plenty of time to add whatever you wanted. So yeah, no regrets. No
Got
regrets,
all those
Mike.
demons out.
Demons.
Got those Matt Damons out.
I only got through 1 and 3/4 pages of notes though, so that's a little upsetting.
God damn it! Every time.
There'll be a part 2.
I feel like as we get close to the end of an episode, Mike like hurriedly jots down something, but he's like drawing a picture of a kitty. He's like, "Oh man, I didn't get all my notes in this episode."
I was sitting with my wife outside before this, and I was on like the 3rd page, and it was blank. But I'd had two full pages front to back of notes, and I'm like, I pulled out my phone, and I was watching the kids play outside, and I'm like, I looked at her, I'm like, I shouldn't even start this page because I'm never gonna get here during this podcast. And she's like, yeah, but she's like, okay. And I'm like, I don't even have to have this conversation with you because you don't care either. So I'm not gonna get. I'm not, like,
I'm not gonna get
to these notes. I'm not gonna get to these notes.
Dude, I have the stupidest conversations with my wife too. Like
Me
There's-
too, dude.
like I'll never forget this one time. And my buddies, it's like an inside running joke with me and my buddies. I remember like we unlocked Rosalina and like I think it was like Mario Kart or something. I remember like Karen just like came down with the stairs and was like, Karen, we got fucking Rosalina. You see this shit? Rosalina. She was just like, cool. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Right on. And I've never felt more like a child. But like even recently, like I'm in the car and I'm like explaining to her, like, do you understand the vocal range that this guy has in this band? Like, and like he's gone through so many different changes in his lineup of his band, and she's just like, I don't fucking care about this. There's anything that you're saying right now I care about.
Dude.
My oldest child imposed we decided on a 50 word limit to anything that she doesn't care about. And that's how I have 50 words to describe like something like that, like the vocal range of Rob Thomas from Xbox 20.
Kids, get in here. We're talking about pickleball. I got 50 words.
I'm using all 50. I'm using all 50. So you're going to sit here and listen to it. Like,
dude, just yesterday we went to a friend's kid's birthday party, and it's a friend of mine from work, and like within maybe a minute or two of me sitting down, we started talking about games. We were talking about Final Fantasy 14 actually, and how it came to Xbox Series X and shit. And Cheyenne was just like, "Oh, of fucking course, they're talking about games. That's all Aaron fucking talks about, or whatever."
Yeah,
But
my wife does
yeah,
the same thing.
listeners, video games are fun. Mike, do you want to plug anything or like throw something else out to listeners before we let you go?
I don't really think so. I guess I was on a couple other podcasts that maybe deserve some more recognition. I was just on the Gaming Together podcast, which is actually the first time I've met Bill from the 3DO experience, because he was also on there with me. So this whole super pod network that you have created is slowly like infiltrating every single thing that I do now.
Yep.
So and of course the conversation was all about Thrak and how he's becoming like my nemesis slowly.
Thrak has a lot of nemesis. So
yeah,
many.
I can tell, because that's all. Nave was like too, like, oh, I can see that on Thrak. Like, he's kind of my nemesis, and I don't even like talk to him that much. And then Nintendo Therapy is another podcast that I'm getting into. They've got quite a few really good episodes, and I'm trying to work out a time to go on there and talk about something. So if you're looking for more podcasts, like those two, really good. I just had in Aaron's Discord a couple other ones that were suggested to me. I just did like a huge thing with Retro Rehab and the, what was it? Pixel
Project Radio.
Pixel, yeah. They did a 4-part, 8-hour Final Fantasy 6 thing, and I've said I wasn't going to listen to it, and I've listened to all of it now. And it was amazing. It was everything like that was suggested to me. So Pixel Project Radio, Nintendo Therapy, Playing Together, these are great podcasts. Just go out and ask people what they listen to. I'm gonna stick my quest foot so far into these things until they're sick of me, and it's gonna end up like this show where I'm on whenever they decide that they need somebody.
You're the rotating chair.
Yep,
pretty much. Love having you on every single time, though.
Yeah, dude.
Gerry, if folks need more of us or the other stuff that we do, where can they find us on the internet?
You can go to the dark web and type in Christ Alive in your Tor browser, and you will find the superpodnetwork.com is just tucked away in a nice little part of the dark web. And it's got all these great shows, a lot of what Mike here just mentioned, lots of homies of the show hanging out there. And yeah, you can get this show, you can get the backlog of all of our good shows there, and lots of blogs and stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. And you can also, check out all the different, I feel like there's a lot of YouTube stuff happening lately too. Like a lot of the shows in the Superpod network are starting to get more into YouTube content. And you and I will obviously be doing some YouTube content for Retro Rehab, and maybe even something here with Mike, with Quest 64 Mike on the YouTubes. Get
Maybe.
them out in the open on the YouTube. Just pop those tops
That's
off and get wild.
Terrible idea to do
Yeah.
anything with me live. I think we've all figured it out at this point.
Yeah, this has been awesome, man. It was fun to do this. We should definitely do a lot more, just like discussion ones, just to break the mold. Thank all of you listeners for listening. Rate the show, review it, support the show on Patreon, $4 a month. Check out superpodnetwork.com. Check out Mike, Quest64 official. Check him out. Everybody say
check.
bye. Chickity check.
Bye.
Everybody say bye.
Bye. Thank you
Thanks,
for having me,
listeners.
guys.
You bet, man.
Bye, listeners. We love your face.